The Israel-Palestine conflict is an immensely difficult subject that I'm not even going to begin to pretend to know the ins and outs of, but I do know enough to know that I am staunchly pro-Palestine, because what the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people is an absolute atrocity. Think of what the United States did to the Native Americans. Slowly but surely, indigenous land got smaller and smaller until, essentially, the indigenous people of this country were pretty much wiped out. Very similar situation here. People who were not even born on a piece of land still feel a sense of entitlement towards said piece of land, and they will take that piece of land by force, even if that means killing innocent civilians who live on said piece of land, because they do not give a fuck whatsoever. 35 people are dead in Gaza this past week alone, 10 including children. I'd like to hear the Zionists who are staunchly defending Israel try to defend that one. What the fuck do those children do to deserve death? People who barely lived life whatsoever, prematurely die because, oh noes, their only offense was living on a piece of land that Israel wants oh so much. Hundreds of airstrikes have struck Gaza on Wednesday morning alone, and I know what people are going to say. Well, Palestine isn't exactly innocent in this situation either. They've killed their share of innocent Israeli people over the years. Of course, both sides have their share of bloodshed, but when you compare Palestine to Israel, it's clear who is the much bigger and much more threatening force: Israel. From Institute for Policy Studies, Israel is one of the United States' largest arms importers. In the past decade, the United States has sold Israel $7.2 billion in weaponry and military equipment, $762 million through direct commercial sales, more than $6.5 billion through the foreign military sales program. So, when you compare Israel to Palestine in terms of how much of a threat each one is, it's really no fucking contest whatsoever. And you can really say that every time Palestine has attacked Israel, it was all in self-defense and retaliation. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay or justify any innocent Israeli dying, but you can certainly make the argument if it weren't for Israel's incessant need for the Palestinian land, those innocent Israelis would probably still be living today. It's easy for you, who is sitting on their ass in the comfort of their own home in a quote-unquote first world country, to say Palestine is getting exactly what is coming to them because you have no idea what it is like to live through such tragedy. You have no clue what it is like to lose your home from an airstrike, to lose your children because, oh noes, they lived on a piece of land that Israel wants oh so much, to lose family members for the same reason, to lose your own life for the same reason. And I'm not trying to argue that I know tragedy to that extent, but I have something that you don't. Basic human empathy. Empathy for those who are facing severe consequences for something they're not even a part of, and for something that they just got caught in the crossfire of. I've seen dumb fucks on Twitter like Trump Jr. post shit like this: "Do yourselves a favor and look at the quote tweets and replies to this tweet. Dems are now legit pro-terror." This is in response to something atrocious Andrew Yang, a former Democratic presidential candidate and now current Democratic mayoral candidate for NYC, where I live, posted onto Twitter in support of Israel. This is essentially pushing the narrative that everything that happens in Palestine only directly affects Hamas. Hamas is a militant organization in Palestine that originated in the 1980s whose purpose is to fight back against Israel. They are deemed as a terrorist organization by, of course, Israel and several other countries, including the United States. Do I support them? I mean, they've killed innocent Israelis in the past, so not really. I support the cause behind it, liberate Palestine, of course, but the way they go about it, yeah, I really can't get behind that, I'm sorry. But that aside, the right-wing narrative is leftists are supporting a terrorist organization. That is why we must support Israel, because Israel is just acting in self-defense against Hamas. Do not fall for this fucking narrative, because they're just trying to bury and ignore the innocent Palestinians that Israel has killed. Way more than Hamas has killed in Israel. It's like the right wing over here in the United States saying Antifa is a terrorist organization, BLM is a terrorist organization, because they do not want you to get behind a movement that liberates marginalized people within this country. It's the exact same thing over there. They do not want you to humanize the people over in Palestine. They want you to view them as the enemy, and that is the exact trap they want you to fall in. And let me end the video with this. No matter how evil the Israeli government is, do not let that justify your hatred for Jewish people, because there are plenty of Jews who do not support the Israeli government. There are plenty of Jews who are very much pro-Palestine, so please, we see through your fucking bullshit. You're an anti-Semitic moron, you do not give a fuck about Palestine whatsoever. You just see this conflict as an excuse to justify your hatred for Jewish people, and try to spread your hatred for Jewish people onto other people. And it's thanks to you that there's such a lack of nuance when it comes to this subject. Criticize Israel for their atrocities? Oh, you're an anti-Semite. Hateful pieces of shit like you make it easy for people to easily shut down criticisms of Israel, not listen to it, because any criticism of Israel is marred by people like you. And it's absolutely insufferable and frustrating that every time Israel is criticized, people like you perk up and flock towards it because you think that whoever is criticizing Israel is automatically on your side. Sorry, not everyone who criticizes Israel, in fact, most people who criticize Israel isn't a hateful Nazi piece of shit. So please, fuck off. I just had to make that clear in case any Nazi comes across this video and thinks that I'm on their side because I don't like Israel and am pro-Palestine. It's like every time a lefty critiques Joe Biden and then a MAGA moron perks up and says, "Hell yeah, dude, Biden sucks ass. Isn't Trump so great?" And then you're like, no. Fuck no. Get the fuck away from me. But anyways, I'm sure normal people will get my point, and I'm sure mostly normal people are watching this video anyways, so if you're a normal person, you will agree with this following statement. Free Palestine. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.